Can I take my phone into the examination room even though it is turned off? The students sitting next to me keep asking me questions in the exam room. What should I do? Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar entitled CXC Examinations, Do's and Don'ts. Thank you for joining us online for today's discussion, and we look forward to your active participation in this event. Remember, you can post your questions on CXC's Facebook site, www.facebook.com/Caribbean Examinations Council, or right here on Ustream at www.ustream.com. With me today is a team of competent officers from CXC who will answer your questions as well as clarify any doubts that you may have about CXC examination, do's and don'ts. And at this time, I would like to introduce the members of the team to you. Let me start with the ladies on my right. Ms. Diane Medford is Assistant Registrar, Examination Administration and Security. On my immediate right is Ms. Susan Giles. She's the Senior Assistant Registrar, Examination Administration and Security. On my left, the two gentlemen who will be with us this afternoon as well. On my far left is Mr. Andre Blair, and he's the Assistant Registrar in the Information Systems Division. And next to him is Mr. Stevenson Grayson, who is an Assistant Registrar in the Examination Development and Production Division, EDPD. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
If I may start first, let us just look at the whole question of school-based assessment, as the deadline for school-based assessment to be submitted to CXC is just around the corner, sometime next week. And last year as well, we had some issues with school-based assessment, with some classes in some territories being reported ungraded. If I may start with EAS, Susan and Diane, just how important it is for schools and students and principals to meet our SBA deadlines?
Well, the SBA is an important component of the examination. Each examination which has an SBA component will not be graded unless the SBA component is present, which implies that the candidates must submit that SBA to the teachers for marking, and that must be submitted to the local registrars by their deadline, because we've set a deadline for local registrars to send that work to us, and they must meet our deadline. So they usually set deadlines in advance to ensure that that work is on time.
Okay, thank you very much. Stephen, so from a measurement perspective, how critical are SBAs in CXC's examination system?
SBAs comprise one of the papers of each examination. If you do not write any component of that examination, when you come for your grades, you will see simply ungraded. You must write SBA just as you would write your paper 1 or your paper 2 of any examination.
All right, while we on the papers, as students prepare for their examination, they are preparing for particular subjects, but those exams comprise several papers. Can you just go into a bit of details in terms of what are the various papers that comprise an examination?
Okay, most subjects comprise 3 papers. You have paper 1, which in most subjects would be a multiple choice, or there are a couple of subjects in which that would simply be a short answer paper. Paper 2 normally comprises a structured response paper or an essay paper. And then the third paper would be what you complete before the SBA. So most examinations comprise 3 papers.
Okay, thank you. Suzanne, if we may look, when a student registers for an examination, there are certain information that CXC would feed to the students before the sit the paper? What are some information that the students should look forward to receiving from CXC, timetables, etc.?
Yes, well, the most important thing, Sam, is candidates should expect to get their timetables. They really should know, first of all, exactly what subjects they're registered for. And we hope that this would have been conveyed to them during the registration period, which would have been held towards the end of last year. They should be involved in that and should be part of, and should have signed off on the subjects for which they're registered for. Then they should certainly expect to receive their timetables. And this is a critical part of the examination, because once you are correctly registered, the information that is contained in the timetable is also should be correct. So if when you get your timetable and you see some errors, I can assure you, there are some problems. You will have then to speak with your school, who will then have to speak with the local registrars and get these matters resolved. Timetables have been issued from our office, and they were sent to the local registrars since, I believe, the 2nd of April. The local registrars have them. Most of them have explained that the timetables have already been handed out to candidates. And in the case of the private candidates, they have been asked to come to the offices to collect them.
Okay, so we certainly do hope that all of you have your timetables and are familiar with the times and dates of your examination on your various papers. Now, Andre, you're one of the persons involved in the electronic registration. Could you just tell us, because in my time, certainly, we had nothing called electronic registration. Could you just give us some details in terms of what is electronic registration and how is it helping CXC to be more efficient in its operation?
The electronic registration is an application whereby schools and ministries can input candidate information, registration details. And we've also extended that application since last year, where students can now view their timetables online as well as results online.
So students basically have no excuse not to know have their timetable information.
I should point out, even if you have not received your timetable from the ministry, you can go online. You can go online at the ORS, and I'm sure Andre will give you the menu. But you can go online, you can check your timetable, and you can see what you're registered for. It will tell you the date of your examination, and it will tell you the time of your examination. And that's something we must really emphasize here to all of you coming up to write these examinations. Our examinations begin, the morning sessions begin at 9 o'clock, and the afternoon sessions at 1 p.m. There's no deviation from that. Those are the times for the examinations.
Yeah. Andre, just another issue on the electronic registration and the ORS. How can candidates access that information?
Well, the main site is located at https://ors.cxc.org/student portal. Once you go there, you need your candidate number, your center number, your last name, date of birth, and you'll be able to log in.
All right, thank you very much. Let's get into some of the actual do's and don'ts and some of the issues that arise during an examination administration. Suzanne, if I may start with you, that the council has quite a number of regulations and procedures for the administration, that govern the administration of the examination. You want to just take us through some of those things in terms of what candidates should do. Let's start with actually before the candidate enters the examination room. What are some of the things that they should do, should not do, should not have with them, should have with them in terms of entering the examination room?
Okay, and I'm going to ask Diane for some assistance on this as well, so we will put this together. But we say to you, the first thing, as I mentioned just now, time. It is very important that you get there on time. And we are suggesting to you that if an examination is going to start at 9 o'clock, that by 8:30 you be either there or thereabouts in such a position that when the supervisor says she's ready for everybody to come into the room, you're ready, you're composed, you're calm, and you know we get nervous on occasion, and you can go into the examination room. We suggest you take with you, if you're going to take pencils and that sort of thing, it be in a Ziploc bag. You put your pencils, your pens, your erasers, and a timetable in your Ziploc bag. Why a Ziploc bag? Because the supervisor can come around, hold up the Ziploc bag, and look very closely and see what is in it. She doesn't have to open it. She knows what she sees. You should have a 3B pencil, a pencil that can shade the multiple choice sheet, and you should have a pen that you can write and write clearly. We do not ask for anything in red pen. We do not wish you to write in red pen. We just wish you to write with a pen, black ink pen preferably, and you follow those instructions.
And also always remember to bring more than one pen, because sometimes one may stop functioning and you don't want to have a problem. So just walk with a few pens at least.
So you're in the room and the supervisor has called you into the room. You must not bring your cell phone. My advice to you is that day you have exams, leave your cell phone at home. Just, play a game with yourself. See if you can live a day without having your cell phone on you. Leave your cell phone at home. Because if you have that cell phone on you and it rings, you're going to be disqualified from our examinations. So, if you bring it with you, you may come into the room, you may turn it off and think, oh, well, good, I have it turned off. But then you forget that you had set an alarm, and the alarm goes off in the examination room. You know what's going to happen? The supervisor is going to allow you to finish writing the exam. She's going to take the phone from you, allow you to finish writing the examination, and then she's going to ask you to write a report, and she will write one and send it to CXC. Our regulations are very clear. Anyone having a cell phone in the examination will be disqualified. So what do?
And that is whether or not it rings or the alarm goes off. It's having the cell phone, being in possession of the cell phone.
Yes, Diane, thanks for that. Once you have the cell phone and it is discovered that you have that cell phone, you're going to be disqualified from the examination, whether it rings or whether it alarms or not.
Are there provisions made in the examination room for students to leave their cell phone somewhere?
Certainly. The supervisors have identified areas where they will say to you, put your cell phone in the bags, put your bags in this area, and they will have it supervised. And that's what you must do. The problem when you come to an examination late, and remember, if you get there at an examination, it's supposed to start at 9, and you get there at 9:30, the doors will be closed. You cannot come into the examination at that time. You are considered late. But remember, when the supervisor tells you to put your cell phone away, you put it in the bag, put it in the area where they have identified, and you then proceed into the examination room. So I really wish to stress this. Do not bring your cell phones into the room when you're having an exam. I know candidates say, oh, I have my bag next to me and it's down in the bag. That is not a defense. That is no defense. You must not have your cell phone on you. Another problem we experience...
One second, before we move off the cell phone issue, because I know that it has been highlighted not only by CXC but in some other territories as well. But how pervasive is the issue of cell phone being discovered in examination rooms?
Well, of the 170,000 candidates last year, or the 225,000 candidates we had last year writing the examinations, in all of our examinations, we found there were 0.09% that were found and were disqualified from the examination. That is high.
And I think that the reason why we're stressing it is not because it's 0.09%, but because of the penalty. You see, disqualification does not refer to the penalty in the examination which you're taking. For example, if you're in a chemistry examination and you're found with a cell phone, disqualification means that you will not receive a grade for any of the subjects for which you're registered. So if you're registered for 9 subjects, it means that your grades for 9 subjects will be cancelled. And that's why we want candidates to understand the gravity of the offence. That's why we're stressing it.
Thanks for that, Dan. After that, we also ask about behavior in the examination room. Candidates are not aware that their results can be cancelled if the supervisor complains or reports of disruptive, unruly conduct, disruptive behavior. And if you're speaking to a friend next door, once you step into that room, you're under examination conditions, and you must observe all the rules of the examination. The supervisor will tell you what to do, and you sit and you follow their instructions to the letter. If the supervisor has any reason to write about you or to submit a report about unruly conduct and unruly behavior, your results, chances are your results may be cancelled in the examination.
Okay. Before you go on, sorry, Diane, go ahead.
We just wanted to point out, though, that in all cases, whenever there is a report of misconduct or an irregularity, you are given a chance to state your side of the case. We always ask you to submit a statement informing us from your point of view what occurred in the examination room, right?
Right, and I think this is a critical point as well for me to also reassure candidates and the parents and the teachers as well that it is not a matter of Susan and Diane or your staff making this decision, but there is a governance structure in place. Susan, you just want to emphasize that a little bit.
Yes, all these reports, and let's tell us the process. The report is made at site. You're the candidate, you have suffered this. The supervisor has indicated that you have received, you have a cell phone or your unruly behavior or whatever. You then have the reason to write a report. You also are asked to write a report. These reports come to CXC and we collate the information. We write to the local registrars at the ministry and ask them for further information. This information is then taken to before our final awards committee. Now, this is a committee that is set up in CXC that adjudicates on the grades and the awards, all sorts of things, the administration of the examinations, behavior, the conduct in the examinations. This committee is set up and designed to look at all of these cases. They then look at the reports that have been received from the supervisor, from you, the candidate, from the teachers, from the principals, from whoever, and they will make a decision based on the evidence before them. You have to remember that after this, we will write to you and tell you what has happened. You then have the right to appeal the decision of the council. This is not as a case where we, sit down and we rule and that's the end of that. You have the right to appeal that decision. However, you must understand that when you appeal, we are expecting that you are going to bring forward some additional information that was not before the committee at the time when the decision was taken.
However, we wanted to give you that for information because we want to encourage all of you to go into the examination room, be prepared for the examination, and just follow the rules and regulations, and there will be no problems. All right?
Okay, and this is also a very good time to remind you that you can send your questions and comments to us via the Ustream link that you're looking at right now, or if you're following us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Caribbean Examinations Council. Suzanne and Grayson, one of the other issues that we have been dealing with recently is the whole issue of plagiarism. And I want to start with Grayson first to give us, from a measurement perspective, in terms of how generally do we detect plagiarism when we are going through the marking examination process?
Okay, the plagiarism issue would be detected when we are dealing with the school-based assessments. Most school-based assessments comprise projects which you have to send to reach us at CXC by a predetermined date. During the moderation process, when we are going through these school-based assessments, we have what we call moderators who are aware of all the different writings on whatever topic you may have chosen for your project.
So these are experts in the field?
Experts in the field, right? And they may detect, I mean, it is not unusual for one of the moderators to read in your report something that he or she may have read sometime before, right? The point is, we are not telling you not to use work from someone else, but the fact is, you need to acknowledge wherever you get the information. You cannot pass off that information as your own. That is what the plagiarism issue is about. You cannot pass on that information as your own when it belongs to someone else. You need to acknowledge that. If it is not acknowledged, then
when it becomes an issue.
It becomes an issue, and you will be...
And then EAS kicks in.
Right. You will be disqualified, etc.
Right. So Suzanne and Diane, what are the consequences? Sorry. Yeah.
Before that, there is one area in which we don't want you to use the work, even if you acknowledge it. We have found in recent years that some candidates, in preparing for their English A Paper 2 examination, maybe they read a story somewhere and they think it sounds really good. And what happens is sometimes they rewrite the entire story for the examination. Now, even if you acknowledge that that is not your work, you will still be, there'll still be a penalty applied for that. Because in English A Paper 2, we expect to see creativity. We want to see something that comes from you, all right?
So you mean this is for the short story?
Short story, yeah.
So a student would photographically memorize an entire story?
Yes, Mr. Sam, we have had that, and that's why we really, Diane, that's an excellent point to make, because people feel that they can just read a story somewhere and they remember it. Some of them have very good memories, and some people have very good memories and can do that, and they reproduce the story. But what happens in 98% of the cases is that the examiners also know the story, and then you are going to be marked on that, and you are going to pay, as Diane said, a very heavy penalty for reproducing the work. The other thing we have is that we have booklets out there which have some very good short stories that we have got over the years. Right. And we have that in circulation out there. You have to remember that if you have seen the book, the examiners have seen the book. If you know the story, the examiners know the story. So what we are saying to you is, let's get creative. Write your own stuff. Do your own work. And don't you worry about what you saw, what you remember. Write it and according to what the examiners have asked for.
What are the penalties for plagiarism?
Well, what we do is in cases where where we recognize the plagiarism right away, the result is cancelled in the subject. If it's SBA, the result is cancelled. In a case like what we were just speaking about in English A, what you're probably going to get is 0. For the particular question, you will be given 0 without a question, without a mark, and then the other questions will be marked, and you'll pay a very heavy price for that sort of thing. But I really wish to discourage people. Steve mentioned it briefly about people, the examiners and the moderators recognizing the work. And I have to say, there's even a case where it was one of the moderators' own work that was on the web that the candidates used. Now, this is really quite heartbreaking for us, because we expect that when we get work from you for the SBA, that it is original work. So we're encouraging you, because we will very soon be introducing software to test the work that you submit. In the years to come, it's not happening right now, but in a couple of years, we're going to be asking for assignments to be brought in online and to be run through certain software to be tested. So rather than start it now, our examiners know what work, when it is plagiarized, they've seen it, and the chances are that you will suffer the penalty if you plagiarize work.
Okay, before we move on to some of the other issues of misconduct that can occur within the exam room, we do have some questions which were submitted to us online prior to the broadcast live. So I'm going to start with some of those questions. And the first one is from Karina, that's the name we have, said, would I be able to enter the exam room with my timetable, which I got off the CXC student portal?
Yes, I don't think that there is a problem. Okay. I don't think there should be with once you know it's a timetable and it's a piece of paper that doesn't have anything other than the printed work, the printed information that you have taken from our website, I don't anticipate a problem. Remember what I said earlier. You should use a Ziploc bag so that your examiner can see. And most likely, if they're in doubt, they will take the paper out and take a good look at it.
Remember also, private candidates, that it's not only your timetable you must bring to the examination room, but the ID. Whatever picture ID is required, you must walk with that as well.
So that brings me to my next question from an unknown sender. Says, I lost my ID. Oops, I don't know what to do now. What should I do?
I think you need to go very quickly to the Ministry of Education, to the local registrar's office, and you come up with they will come up with something for you and tell you about which ID. It might be a passport you need to walk with. It may be a driver's license. It may be it has to be a picture ID. But my advice to you, make your way very quickly to the local registrar's office at the Ministry of Education and let them know of your problem right away.
Thank you very much. Okay, you hear that? Go to the Ministry of Education right away. Andre, I think this one is for you. This student, and he gave us his name as Edson Alvarez. He says, I've been trying to log on to my student portal, but I'm denied access. What can I do?
Well, once again, you either go to your school or you go to the local registrar office for them to give you your information. Because the logon information is basically your registration details. It's your candidate number, your last name, your date of birth. So in the number, just go to your center and they'll provide you with that.
All right, Mr. Alvarez, there you go. Your question has been answered. Let's go back to some of the issues in terms of the examination room. We have dealt with taking the cell phone. We have dealt with unruly conduct. I also noticed in our regulation, Susan and Dan, we talk about removal of confidential material from the examination room. What do we term confidential material, and what are the consequences for breaching that particular rule?
Confidential material. Well, first, things like the multiple choice question booklet. Multiple choice question booklet must remain in the examination room. With other material, you're not also allowed to leave with your answer booklet, the booklet into which you wrote your answers to the various questions. That is required for submission to the supervisor, invigilator, to be forwarded to CXC. If you leave the examination room with either of these, the penalty is cancellation of your result in the subject.
I think it's important to remember, you think that you have gone into the exam room, and I'm using this as an example because this is what we have heard from candidates who've written reports. They looked at the paper and they say, well, I really don't know too much that's on this paper. I am going to just get up and leave the exam room. The supervisors have a job to do, and they know that you have to be there for a certain amount of time. So they expect you to be in the room. They don't expect you just to walk out without saying something to them, and certainly you're not expected to walk out of that room without their permission. So you look at the paper and you said, I really don't know this exam. I'm going to get up with my answer booklet because it is mine, and I'm going to leave the room. The supervisor writes that report. Even though you will appeal, it will come and we will take information. We will have to take action on that. There's a penalty for that. You cannot just take up the booklet and walk out of the examination room. Another thing you cannot do, and you must understand, is that the paper 1 examination is a confidential examination. So we do not, and Diane spoke earlier about walking out of the room with the paper 1. What we do not expect you to do either is to remember or memorize questions from the paper one and write them out and hand them to a teacher or to a friend or to anybody. You're not expected to do this, and we ask you not to encourage yourself or your friends into any of this activity, because you will pay a price for this.
Suzanne, while you're on the issue of handing it to teacher, are teachers, let's say for the school candidates who are writing the papers on their school compound, are the teachers for those students, are they allowed to come to the exam room at any time at all? Could you just speak to that? Because I've heard that question raised before.
No, teachers are not expected to be in the examination room. In the very old days when we had practical papers and we had a lot of papers that had to get some assistance, there were, I think, Dan, it was information technology was one I can think of, where teachers were expected to come in to give some assistance. We don't have that anymore. The foreign languages, teachers are expected to come in and to read the passages, and they leave. But they're not expected to be in the room or to be even around the area of the room during the administration of the examinations. One point we must make very clear is that the supervisors are the ones in charge of the center once the examinations have begun.
Okay. We have another question which was sent to us prior to the live broadcast. This one is from Lisa. And Lisa writes, for the visual arts and art and design examinations, can students listen to music using a headset? One of the IS, one of you.
Certainly not. You have to remember that even though it is a visual arts exam on our art and design, and it's being done in a very relaxed atmosphere, it is still an examination. You're still under examination conditions. That is very similar to having a cell phone as far as we're concerned, and it's still subject to the regulations. So no, don't take your headphone. Leave the headphone. Just like the cell phone, you're going to leave the headphones home that day.
And the Walkman and the iPad and so on. Okay, in terms of misconduct within the examination, we also have the issue of people taking notebooks and texts and little bits of notes and leaving them in the bathroom and asking for bathroom breaks and so on. So let's deal with that and let us talk about the penalties.
Well, those are all part of what we call cheating. It's simple, it's straightforward. You take notes into the exam, you leave notes or books in a bathroom. That is cheating. And what the penalty for cheating is disqualification from the examinations. So don't let us we can call it whatever we want. Bring notes in, bring help in. The usual explanation we hear is that I was just reading my notebook before I came into the room and forgot it in the bag, or forgot it in my hand and I left it on the desk, or I rested it in the bathroom and forgot it was there even and saw it when I went in and just looked in it. Those sort of excuses, but let's call it what it is. It is cheating. And CXC does not tolerate that in its examinations. There's zero tolerance to that, and you will be disqualified once you are found.
So in terms of the bathroom breaks, how is this done? Is this supervised or?
Yes, there's not a bathroom break. If you have the need to go to the bathroom, the supervisor will identify an invigilator who will take you to the bathroom, who will go take the candidates down to the room, and they will be there once you come out. They will take you back into the examination room. But yes, breaks are supervised. But it's not a break. It is that you obviously have to go as a matter. Yeah.
Okay, remember you can send your questions and comments to us. If you're following us on Facebook, you can type your question on our Facebook site, or you can send a question to us here on the Ustream site as well. Another question we receive is the timetable according to this student. In this student's opinion, the timetable that he or she has received has an error where they have registered as for the alternative paper, but the timetable has the student listed as a receipt candidate, and what can they do in such a situation?
The candidate believed that they were registered as an SBA candidate and not as a receipt. And the timetable is showing them that they are a receipt?
Yes.
All right. Now, for a candidate to be registered as a resit, it implies that they're carrying forward marks from the last sitting, which would mean that on their timetable, they would not be registered for the alternative paper. If you believe that you have incorrect information on your timetable, you need to speak with, if you are a school candidate, with your center, your principal, who will liaise then with the local registrar. And they will forward that information to us and ask us to respond to them. But please note that any information which is on your timetable comes from the registration system. And in future, when you are registering for exams, the day on which you register, please request that you receive a printout of the subjects and the options for which you are registered, and you check them carefully to ensure that they're exactly what you know you should be registered for. So in this case now, you'll need to have your principal, through the local registrar, send information to us so that we can deal with the situation.
I need to reiterate what Diane said here about registration. At the point of registration, I think it's important that you go to the principals and your teachers and ask to see what it is you have registered for. They may know what it is you're doing, but you must remember, you cannot just decide to change your options. You cannot do that. The teachers know what they have been teaching you. The teachers would have registered you, or the examinations coordinator would have registered you for those examinations. You cannot just decide because you think the 3-2 paper may be a little easier, or you did not submit the SBA on time to the school, that you are now going to change your option. It is not done like that. And it is important that you follow the process through the school and through your principals and your teachers.
Okay, while we're on the whole issue of registration information and so on, Andre, I know you're the person who deals with the ORS, but in terms of candidates, can candidates change their registration information after the deadline has passed? And if so, I mean, what are the consequences, or, I mean, how far do we go with this?
All right. First of all, I want to bring back the point that was made as it relates to students checking their information online. You can check your initial registration information on the student portal. So from the time you register, you can then log on to the portal and check the information, check the accuracy of it. If it's not correct, then you have the option now to go back to the center and ask for a change of any details that you find are incorrect. Now, in terms of amendments are made right up after you submit your registration information up until our deadline. And so far, our deadline has already passed, so you really can't change anything at this moment in time, right? But typically, after you submit your registration information, you have normally about 3 months before you can change any information on that system.
Thank you very much. So registration deadline has passed, and we will not be tolerating any change of information at this stage. We also have, Suzanne, the whole issue of impersonation from time to time coming up. I know the use of ID cards is supposed to help with this, but I know sometimes, I mean, you know, people are very smart and they have ways of beating the system. Can you speak to this and as well tell us about the consequences and any anecdotal stories that you may have as well?
But Sam, I keep saying to you, you know, that, and I'm going to say it to all the candidates, impersonation is just another form of cheating. Zero tolerance again, always. It's cheating in some form or fashion. And we have had cases. People come into the examinations, and the hardest ones we've had are where it's been a twin. One person will write, you know, the twin is not necessarily registered, or it may be a sister, and we know a situation where a candidate is registered for a maths exam. Her sister, who is in upper 6, comes down and writes the exam, and it's only because the teacher is passing outside the room that she looks in the room and she sees this person who she says, well, this candidate is not a 5th form candidate, it's a 6th form candidate. But she looks just like her sister, and it's a school candidate, and she has gone in to write the exam. We have seen it all. But the penalty is the same, disqualification. But we add something else to this, debarment. You're debarred for 2 years. You're prevented from writing our examinations for 2 years once you are found guilty of impersonation. So what I say to you all, don't let's get into all of these things, Let's get into the exam room. We know that you have been well prepared. Your teachers have been with you. They've been encouraging you. Get going. Let's get into the examination room and let's do all the things we know we have to do. We're not interested in any impersonation or getting somebody to write an exam. We're not going down that road at all. That's not the way we are going to go. We are going to do it the right way. Diane, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, that was good.
Well, I would just like, because I know Diane mentioned earlier on the cancellation of examination results and disqualification. Can you, Diane, for the purposes of our viewers, just tell us the difference between cancellation of results and disqualification?
Yeah. A result is cancelled in a subject. However, when you are disqualified, all of the results for any subject for which you are registered will be cancelled. So if you're registered for 7 subjects and you're disqualified, the results for 7 subjects will be cancelled. There are no results at all.
And cancellation is just for the paper?
For the particular subject. Yes.
Okay. So guys, we don't want any disqualification. We don't want any cancellation of exam. As Mrs. Giles said, just do the exam and do what you have to do. But we still have others, Susan. The whole issue of copying and talking to other candidates who are in the examination room. If a candidate is taking an exam and somebody, whether it's on your right or your left, as trying to speak to you consistently, what are you supposed to do? Because this person, not only is that person, obstructing you, but they're probably looking for question 2, an answer to question 1 or question 2 or whatever. What are you supposed to do as a person who is being affected by persistent conversation from someone until your left or your right?
You ignore them, Sam. You just ignore them. If they persist, you call the supervisor or the invigilator and draw it to their attention. Because the chances are that if you respond, you will be seen and not the person. So my advice to you is do not answer. Say nothing. If the person persists in contacting you and trying to implicate you in this thing, you call the invigilator. Get the invigilator's attention. But my advice to you is do not respond. Chances are supervisor looks wrong and sees you. They do not see the other person.
Okay, do not respond. Andre, the student portal once more. Last year, August, when we started the release of the results electronically, it was a first time for us and huge reviews and so on. And we had, an overwhelming response to that. However, by the 3rd, 4th week of August, students were still looking to the portal to be open. Is there a cutoff time when the portal is closed for the results?
Currently, for our examinations, we have it set to close the portal at August 31st, the 31st of August. So after that date, you will not be able to access your results online.
Okay. So one other question we had as well for you, Andre, from someone via the email, was this person wrote us and said, I saw on your website that I can access my results, but I did my exams in 2005.
Well, we only allow you to access current results. So if you sat the exam, let's say in January, you'll be able to access the results up to a month after the exam. Right? So if you're going to sit now in June and the results are released in August, then you have until the end of August to access those results.
Okay. And Susan, coming back to you with a difficult one, in relation to the exam results online. We had some issues last year as well with people saying, CXC blocked my results, CXC blocked my results. Speak to us about that, because I know there's a definitive position from CXC where the results online is concerned.
CXC does not block any results. And I need to say this again because we need to make it clear. We do not block access to results. What we do is we have said to the local registrars at the ministries, we have said to the principals at the schools, if for any reason you have need to block your center or to block a candidate from accessing the results, you are free to do so. They have that facility. The local registrar can block the territory, the entire territory, from seeing the results if they so choose or if they think it is necessary. The school, the principal can block access from his school or her school. But CXC does not, and I repeat, as a matter of policy, we do not block results. We do not help candidates or schools access results that have been blocked either. That is strictly in the purview of the territory. So I think we can make it clear. I think it's wonderful that we can, people can access, but I think you have to remember that schools may have a situation where a candidate, you know, for some reason or another owes money or something happens and they have taken this decision.
And when we say we do not block results, we're hoping that you're not referring to if you've gone on the portal and seen that your results, the subject says withheld. That's not the same thing as blocking. If you see withheld, it means that there's been some report of irregularity or misconduct in terms of that particular examination or examinations, and we are investigating. When you receive your result slip, there will be a letter from us informing you of whatever the report was and asking you to submit a statement. So if you see withheld beside your subjects, it's not that they're blocked, it's that blocked by the school or the principal. That is to do with an irregularity report coming into us, and we are saying we are withholding them pending the outcome of the investigation.
Thank you very much for that clarification, because last year I had to deal with bombardment from the media about that constantly, about why CXC is blocking results of students. And, you know, after several attempts at trying to tell the members of the media, well, CXC does not block the result. I mean, in fact, we release the result. We want students to have their results. But students may have issues with their school, and the school uses that as one method to try and resolve those issues. We have one question from Divya Shaw. However, I'm going to just change the question slightly so that, I mean, our viewers can benefit from the issue that Divya Shaw is raising. When there is a clash of subjects, so a student who may be doing subjects which are, you know, very unlikely, and there's a clash on the timetable of two subjects on the same time, how do we deal with that for the student?
Principals, well, students, candidates should alert their principals that there's a clash. The principal in turn will forward that information to the local registrar. The local registrars in turn will arrange to have a sort of an alternate timetable for the candidates who are affected by this clash. And they will put measures in place to allow them to write the examinations at different times on the same day. So it means, for example, if in the case here it was sociology and economics on the same day, at the same time, one may be written in the morning and then the other in the afternoon, and the local registrar will organize that the supervisors will sequester the candidates and so on. We have procedures that are followed, but the local registrars are the ones who initiate those within each territory.
Thank you very much. And we have another question from Plenty Goodies. Thank you guys for sending in your questions. And please, we have about 5 more minutes, so please send in as many questions as you can within that time. I think this one is for Andre. The question from Plenty Goodies is it a matter of storage space why all the results are not available online as yet?
Well, it's a matter of planning. We do not have the space issue at the moment, but proper planning would suggest that we cannot keep results indefinitely online. So we present just current information. However, if you do need previous results, you could request a transcript online and by going to www.cxe.org.
Thank you very much, Andre. Yes, and I must endorse that the transcripts, we do actually offer transcripts online now as well. You can go on our website on the homepage. For institutions to, if you wish that your results be sent to academic or institutions or employers, we can send those to them directly, and you can use our website to do that as well as paying by credit card. As we come to the end of the session, I'm not sure, Suzanne, Diane, Steve, Andre, I just want to go back to the SBA issue again, so that, I mean, just in terms of parents, teachers, principals, and the students themselves, in terms of what role do you see they must play in ensuring that they do not get affected by their SBA not being submitted on time, or, you know, it's not being submitted at all? I mean, what role is there for the student, or the parent, or the teacher?
Well, you heard earlier from Steve about a part that SBA plays, and it's really very important that you understand how it works. And teachers are there to guide you in your SBA. That's one cardinal point you must remember. It is not expected that you will ignore teachers for the entire year and come with a finished document and expect the teacher to accept it, because your teachers will be in their right to say, no, we did not guide you on this. We do not know that this is your work. Because what teachers need to see is that you have followed a process and not just mark a finished piece of work. What I say to parents is, yes, you can offer advice, but your job is to make sure that the candidates are doing the work. This is really very important. You must find out from your candidates what is it that they're supposed to submit to the teachers to see. Teachers will ask probably for their introduction, to see the what you call it, the book review, the literature review. There are certain things a teacher would ask for that they want to see, all part of the process. And I say to parents, yes, you ensure that your child is doing what they're supposed to do. You are not expected, parents are not expected to do the XBA. And in fact, teachers will mark them off, and teachers will say that this, and send to us and say that this is not the candidate's work. So we say to you as a candidate, follow the instructions of your teacher. Make sure they help you all along the way and they do the process. Meet the deadline that they have set. Submit the work by the deadline. And that way, you will ensure a successful completion to your SBA, and that you can get your SBA out of the way early, so that the teacher can have it to mark, and that you can move on with your preparations for your other written examinations.
Last word, Diane.
I just want to wish you all the best in the exams and have great success.
And Andre?
Well, be sure to log on to the student portal. We have your timetables there. Remember to log on after the results and check your results there as well.
Steve, it's not too late for those of you who may not have done any studying before. Planning will mean that you will achieve. Even though you may not have studied anything before, I mean, some of you pray. Praying may be a bit late now, but planning even more is important for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Diane Medford, Susan Giles, Steve Grayson, Andre Blair, and of course on camera we had Dale Roachford and Simone Pasmo, our webmaster, for producing this webinar this afternoon. I am Cleveland Sam on behalf of the Caribbean Examination Council. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.